Steelers Nation, take a deep breath. There's something different in the air in Pittsburgh, that mix of hope and frustration that only those who live and bleed black and gold can understand. The defense, the heart of this franchise for decades, is being questioned like never before. Fans are tired of promises, they want answers. The truth is, this team stands right on the edge, between the past and the future, between tradition and the need for change. And now, everything depends on how this coaching staff responds. The talent is still there, the pieces are on the board, but without identity, no scheme can survive. So go ahead and drop a like to support the video, and tell me in the comments, what do you think about Mike Tomlin's performance lately? The coach himself admitted the team has regressed in terms of our turnover culture. They haven't been able to protect the ball or force mistakes from opponents in recent games. My friends, the clock is ticking, and in Pittsburgh, the time for patience is over. Go Steelers! I still believe. There's a strange energy around the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, the kind that splits the fan base between frustration and hope. The defense, the identity of this franchise for decades, has been under the microscope, and fans are starting to ask hard questions about what Mike Tomlin is really seeing on the field. When someone in the mailbag called him delusional about this defense, it wasn't just frustration talking, it was exhaustion from watching a unit loaded with big names and big paychecks fail to meet expectations. Tomlin, for his part, seems to believe that experience can fix everything, but the problem is, age doesn't rewind. Patrick Peterson, once a shutdown corner, isn't that anymore. Darius Slay, brought in to solidify the secondary, has been flat-out disappointing. And even Jalen Ramsey, still talented, still instinctive, isn't the same player who used to erase top receivers one-on-one. The staff thought they could lean on veteran savvy to build a no-fly zone. Instead, they've built a group that gets picked apart when the game turns into a sprint. The truth is, this defense hasn't made the right adjustments. They're stuck halfway between two philosophies, the old-school, physical identity that defined the Steelers for decades and the modern, speed-first approach that today's NFL demands. The result is inconsistency. One week they look like a contender, the next, they look like a defense searching for answers. Terrell Austin and Tomlin both insist the tweaks are coming, but so far, the eye test says otherwise. The team hoped that guys like Ramsey and Slay could play man coverage and let the pass rush dominate, but that plan falls apart when your corners can't hold their ground for more than 2 seconds. And speaking of the pass rush, it's still one of the most talented in the league. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Cam Hayward, that's a core most teams would kill for. But when quarterbacks are getting the ball out in 2.3 seconds because your corners are playing soft zones, even what can't save you, the fix isn't about talent, it's about identity. This defense has to rediscover what it means to play Steelers football, aggressive, disciplined, fearless, instead of relying on reputation and aging stars to carry the weight. Then there's the chatter about the depth chart. Fans keep asking if younger guys like Dante Kent could see the field this year. The answer? Probably not. Kent's buried on the slot cornerback depth chart, sitting behind Ramsey, Eccles, and Beanie Bishop Jr. unless an injury wave hits. His year will likely be spent watching and learning. That's a shame, because the Steelers could use some of that youthful hunger right now. The veterans are steady, sure, but the defense has lacked that spark, that raw, attacking energy that used to make opposing offenses nervous just walking into Acrisure Stadium. Trade rumors and draft talk are also starting to swirl. Fans are throwing out names like Jackson Powers Johnson from the Raiders or draft prospects like Carson Beck, but let's be real, none of that fixes what's happening today. Carson Beck might have command, but he's not a guaranteed franchise quarterback. Powers Johnson? The Steelers don't need another interior lineman. Isaac Sumolo's injury isn't long-term, and the interior trio of Sumolo, Zach Frazier, and Mason McCormick has held up fine. What this team needs isn't another guard, it's direction. A clear plan for how to use the pieces already in the building. And speaking of roster moves, fans are restless about the idea of dead weight. Chuck Clark and Juan Thornhill's names came up a lot, and the frustration makes sense. The safety room's crowded, and the front office clearly sees that too. That's why they went out and got Kyle Duggar and Derek Forrest. Those moves weren't random, they were statements. The Steelers aren't blind to what's wrong, they're just struggling to turn recognition into results. If the veterans can't get it done, don't be shocked if one or two of them are cut loose before long. The team's patience has limits, but all of this leads to a bigger question. What exactly is the plan moving forward? The offense is solid but not elite. It's efficient enough to win games if the defense holds up its end of the deal, but when the defense collapses, everything falls apart. Fans dream of playoff runs, but right now, this team is fighting just to find itself. The front office believes they can still win this year, but the fans see something different on Sundays, a team that flashes potential and then fades when it matters most. And then there's the emotional side, trading away familiar faces like George Pickens and Minkah Fitzpatrick. That stung. Pickens might have been a headache at times, but he was electric. Now he's thriving in Dallas, finally in an offense that throws enough to feed him. In Pittsburgh, he'd still be frustrated, watching targets go to DK Metcalf while the Steelers try to grind out games on the ground. Trading him hurt, but it might have been the right call long-term. Same with Minkah. His contract was massive, nearly $30 million on the cap, and his play wasn't matching the price tag. The Steelers offloaded him at the right time, even if it left a hole in the secondary. The problem is, replacing that production hasn't been easy. Still, as uneven as things feel, this roster has real talent. This might be the most talented Steelers team in years, on paper, but talent without chemistry and execution doesn't win you January games. If the defense keeps misfiring, they're not beating Kansas City, Buffalo, or even Baltimore in the postseason. The offense can't score 40 every week. Something's got to change, and soon. Because here's the truth that no one in the building will admit out loud. The clock is ticking. TJ Watt is still dominant, but he's not getting younger. The window to win with this core is right now. Not next season. Not in 2 years. Right now. And if the coaching staff can't figure out how to fix the scheme, stop the bleeding, and put these veterans in a position to succeed, the Steelers risk wasting one of the best defensive cores they've assembled in a decade. Because if we're being honest, the answer can't just be wait and hope. Hope doesn't stop an opponent's third down conversion or force a turnover in the red zone. What's missing is accountability, on every level. It starts with Tomlin. He's one of the most respected leaders in the game, but respect alone doesn't fix schematic breakdowns. The defensive communication has been sloppy, the rotations late, and the tackling inconsistent. You can't build a Super Bowl caliber unit on a foundation that's shaky. The irony is that this group is loaded with guys who know how to play the game the right way. Ramsey, Watt, Hayward, these are professionals who've seen it all. But even veterans need structure, a system that plays to their strengths instead of exposing their age and limitations. And that's where Teryl Austin's role comes into focus. His system feels dated, too static, too predictable. Opposing coordinators know what's coming, and they're exploiting the gaps. The Steelers have the personnel to run complex disguises, pre-snap motion, rotation after the snap, hybrid fronts, but they've played it safe. And when you play it safe in today's NFL, you get torched. Teams like the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens are built to shred static defenses. If Pittsburgh wants to hang with the big boys, it has to evolve. Look at the linebackers. They've been fine, but not game-changing. The front office thought that by bolstering the secondary with names like Slay and Ramsey, it could compensate for the middle of the field. That hasn't happened. The linebackers are still getting exposed in coverage, and offenses are targeting that zone between 5 and 15 yards relentlessly. You can have the best edge rushers in football, but if quarterbacks have easy, quick reads underneath, the pass rush becomes irrelevant. That's why the Steelers' sack totals have dipped despite having Watt and Highsmith in their primes. The ball's out before they can even make contact. Then there's the question fans whisper but don't want to face. What happens if this defense can't be fixed under this staff? Does the franchise finally consider moving on from Tomlin? It feels unthinkable. Tomlin has never had a losing season, and his leadership is part of the team's DNA. But leadership without adaptation can become stubbornness. You can be a great motivator, but if the X's and O's aren't keeping up, you start losing not just games, but belief. And once a locker room starts losing faith in the plan, everything unravels fast. Still, even in the chaos, there's optimism to be found. Kyle Duggar's arrival brought fresh energy to the building. Coaches love his physicality, his range, and how quickly he's picking up the playbook. He's not Minkah Fitzpatrick, but he's a tone setter, the kind of guy who makes receivers think twice before crossing the middle. Pair him with Derek Forrest, and suddenly you've got a safety duo that can hit, cover, and adapt. If Duggar continues to settle in, he could become the spark this defense desperately needs. And while we're talking about sparks, don't underestimate Nick Herbig. Every week, he's getting closer to breaking out. You can feel it. He's young, relentless, and fearless, exactly what this team has been missing in spurts. When Herbig's on the field, the energy changes. The question is whether the coaches will give him enough snaps to actually make that impact. Because playing it safe with veterans over ascending young talent hasn't worked so far. It's time to let the next generation get their reps and reshape this defense's identity from the ground up. Offensively, things are steady, not spectacular. The unit's efficient, but it's not scaring anyone. The run game has been reliable, the passing game controlled, but the Steelers aren't built to win shootouts, not yet. And that's why fixing the defense is non-negotiable, because if they get that side of the ball right, suddenly this becomes a complete team again, the kind that can grind out wins in December and make noise in January. Still, the reality is, this might be the last true window for this core. Cam Hayward's body has taken hits. Watt's contract will soon weigh heavier on the cap. Ramsey and Slay aren't getting younger. This isn't about rebuilding, it's about recalibrating. The pieces are there, the talent is there, the leadership is there, but chemistry and execution, that's the missing ingredient. The difference between an 8-9 season and a legitimate playoff run. Fans are justified in demanding more. They've seen greatness before, defenses that imposed their will, that made Heinz Field, now Acrisure, a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. They know what Steelers football looks like, and they're tired of hearing promises instead of seeing results. But it's not over. Far from it. If Tomlin and Austin can swallow their pride, adjust the scheme, and trust some of the new faces, this defense can still reclaim its edge. Because deep down, everyone in Pittsburgh knows the truth. This roster isn't as far away as it looks on paper. It's not about talent. It's about timing. Get the defense firing again, and this team becomes dangerous overnight. But if the same old mistakes keep showing up, it won't matter how many stars they have. The window will quietly close. So tell me, Steelers Nation, do you still believe this defense can find its identity again before it's too late? Or are we watching the end of an era unfold in slow motion? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, drop a like to support the channel, and check out the videos on your screen for more in-depth coverage on everything black and gold.